In 1930, in the city of Omaha, Nebraska, a boy was born into a world falling apart. The Great Depression had shattered the global economy. Banks were failing. Families were starving. Millions of people had lost everything they had worked their entire lives to build. But this boy was not thinking about the depression. He was thinking about money. At age 6, he bought 6 cans of Coca-Cola for 25 cents and sold them for 5 cents each. His first profit, his first lesson. At age 10, he visited the New York Stock Exchange and sat in awe as traders shouted and numbers flew across the board. He had found his world. At age 11, he bought his first stock. At age 13, he filed his first tax return, deducting his bicycle as a business expense for his paper delivery route. At age 30, he was a millionaire. At age 50, he was one of the wealthiest men in America. And today, at over 90 years old, Warren Edward Buffett is worth more than $100 billion. But here is what the headlines never tell you. His story is not really about money. It is about something far more rare: patience, discipline, and a way of seeing the world that almost nobody else has ever understood. This is the untold story of Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett's father, Howard Buffett, was a stockbroker and politician. Growing up, Warren absorbed everything around him like a sponge. He did not play like other children. He calculated. He memorized the populations of every city in the world. He studied the patterns of car license plates for hours. He counted the number of times each letter appeared in newspapers. He was not obsessed with knowledge for its own sake. He was obsessed with understanding systems, with finding the patterns underneath the surface of things. And when he discovered the stock market, he realized he had found the most fascinating system in the world. At age 8, he began reading every book about finance he could find in his father's library. By age 10, he had read every book in the Omaha Public Library that mentioned the word money. Then he read them all again. His first stock purchase was 3 shares of City Service Preferred, bought at $38 each. The stock dropped to $27 almost immediately. Young Warren watched anxiously, day after day, as his investment lost value. Then it recovered. He sold at $40, a small profit, and then the stock rocketed to $200. He never forgot that lesson. Patience, not panic. Patience. By the time Warren Buffett arrived at Columbia University in 1950, he was already more knowledgeable about markets than most professional investors. But he was about to meet the man who would change his life completely. His name was Benjamin Graham. Graham was the author of The Intelligent Investor, the book we covered in week 1 of this series. He was the father of value investing. And he was, in Buffett's own words, the second most influential person in his entire life, after his own father. When Buffett walked into Graham's classroom at Columbia, he felt for the first time that someone was speaking his exact language. Graham taught that a stock was not a ticker symbol or a number on a screen. It was a piece of a real business. And if you could figure out what that business was truly worth, its intrinsic value, then you could buy it when the market was being irrational and selling it cheap. You were not speculating. You were not gambling. You were buying $1 for 50 cents. Buffett was the only student Graham ever gave an A+. After graduating, Buffett begged Graham for a job at his investment firm. Graham initially said no. Buffett offered to work for free. Graham eventually said yes. For 2 years, Buffett absorbed everything Graham knew. He studied hundreds of companies. He read thousands of financial reports. He built a foundation of knowledge that would eventually make him the richest investor in the history of the world. In 1956, at just 25 years old, Warren Buffett returned to Omaha and started his own investment partnership. He had $105,000 from 7 family members and friends. His rules were simple. He would find businesses that were worth significantly more than what the market was pricing them at. He would buy them, he would wait, and he would let time and compounding do their work. Within 5 years, the partnership had grown from $105,000 to more than $7 million. While the broader market struggled, Buffett's returns averaged over 29% per year. People started to notice. Then, in 1965, Buffett made a decision that would define his entire legacy. He bought a struggling textile company called Berkshire Hathaway. The textile business itself was a terrible investment. Buffett later admitted it was actually one of his worst decisions. But he did something brilliant. He used Berkshire not as a textile company, but as a vehicle. Every dollar the business generated, he reinvested into buying great companies: American Express, Coca-Cola, Washington Post, Geico, Wells Fargo. He was not just investing, he was building a compounding machine. No story about Warren Buffett is complete without talking about Charlie Munger. The two men met at a dinner party in Omaha in 1959. Buffett was 28. Munger was 35. Within minutes of meeting, they were finishing each other's sentences. Munger became Buffett's business partner and closest friend for the next 6 decades, and he changed the way Buffett invested forever. Graham had taught Buffett to buy cheap companies. Munger taught him something different. Forget about finding a fair company at a wonderful price, Munger said. Find a wonderful company at a fair price. This shift was everything. Instead of hunting for discarded, broken businesses trading at low prices, Buffett began looking for exceptional businesses with durable competitive advantages, what he called economic moats. Brands so strong that competitors could not touch them. Businesses so essential that customers kept coming back forever. Coca-Cola, Apple, American Express, See's Candies. Companies that would still be growing and profitable 50 years later. Buffett bought them, and he held them for decades. So what exactly made Warren Buffett the greatest investor who ever lived? It was not intelligence alone. There are thousands of people smarter than Buffett. It was not access to information. In today's world, everyone has access to the same data. It came down to 5 things that almost no one else was willing or able to do consistently over a lifetime. Secret number 1. He started early and never stopped. Buffett bought his first stock at age 11. He has been compounding money for over 80 years. Here is the stunning truth. 97% of his entire net worth was accumulated after his 60th birthday. Not because he got smarter at 60, because compound interest had been working quietly for decades, and at 60, it finally erupted. Secret number 2. He read voraciously and never stopped learning. Buffett spends 5 to 6 hours every single day reading annual reports, newspapers, books, industry research. He has done this his entire life. He once said that knowledge builds up like compound interest. The more you know, the more connections you can make. The more connections you make, the better your decisions become. Secret number 3. He controlled his emotions absolutely. In 1973, the stock market collapsed. Buffett's portfolio lost enormous value. While other investors panicked and sold, Buffett went on a buying spree. In 2008, the global financial crisis nearly destroyed the world economy. Buffett wrote an article in the New York Times titled, "Buy American, I Am." He bought billions of dollars of stocks at the exact moment everyone else was running away. He was not lucky. He was not contrarian for the sake of it. He simply understood that great businesses on sale are still great businesses. Secret number 4. He stayed within his circle of competence. Buffett famously avoided technology stocks for most of his career, not because he thought technology was unimportant, but because he could not predict which technology companies would still be dominant in 10 years. He only invested in what he understood deeply: businesses with simple, predictable models, things people would always need, things that would not be disrupted by the next invention. Coca-Cola, insurance, railroads, banking, candy. Boring? Yes. Extraordinary? Absolutely. Secret number 5, he never stopped living simply. Despite being worth over $100 billion, Warren Buffett still lives in the same house in Omaha he bought in 1958 for $31,500. He still eats McDonald's for breakfast most mornings. He still drives himself to work. He did not build wealth to consume it. He built wealth because building wealth was the game he loved to play. There is one final chapter to this story that most people never talk about. In 2006, Warren Buffett announced that he would give away 99% of his entire fortune to charity. Not after he died, starting immediately. He began donating billions of shares of Berkshire Hathaway to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the largest act of private philanthropy in human history. When asked why, he said something that stopped many people in their tracks. He said that society deserves credit for much of what he had built, that he was lucky to be born with certain talents in a country that happened to reward those specific talents enormously, and that keeping $100 billion in a family while children died from preventable diseases in other parts of the world was simply not something he was willing to do. The man who built one of the greatest fortunes in human history decided that the greatest use of that fortune was giving it all back. Warren Buffett's story is not really about stocks. It is not really about Berkshire Hathaway, or compound interest, or even money. It is about what happens when a person finds something they love deeply and commits to it completely for an entire lifetime. He started with 6 cans of Coca-Cola and a bicycle. He read every book he could find. He found a great teacher. He found a great partner. He controlled his emotions when the world lost its mind. He stayed in his lane. He never stopped. And 80 years later, those simple choices had compounded into something almost no human being in history had ever achieved. The lesson is not to become Warren Buffett. The lesson is this: find your game, learn it deeply, play it consistently, let time do the rest. That is not just investing advice, that is life advice. If this story gave you something to think about, subscribe to Wealth Doctrine. Every week we bring you the stories, books, and ideas behind the world's greatest wealth builders. And drop a comment below. What is the one thing from Buffett's story that hit you the hardest?